The Worship of Comfort by Richard M. Weaver. The polarity of the actual and the potential creates a tension in the presence of which complete comfort is impossible. Here is the secret of the mass man's impatience with ideals. Certainly, there is no more innocent seeming form of debauchery than the worship of comfort, and when it is accompanied by a high degree of technical resourcefulness, the difficulty of getting people not to renounce it, but merely to see its consequences, is staggering. The task is bound up, of course, with that of getting principles accepted again, for where everything ministers to desire, there can be no rebuke to comfort. As we endeavor to restore values, we need earnestly to point out that there is no correlation between the degree of comfort enjoyed and the achievement of a civilization. On the contrary, absorption in ease is one of the most reliable signs of present or impending decay. Greek civilization, to take an outstanding example, was notably deficient in creature comforts. The Athenians sat outdoors on stone to behold their tragedies. The modern New Yorker sits in an inclined plush armchair to witness some play properly classified as amusement. When the Greek retired for the night, it was not to a beauty rest mattress. He wrapped himself up in his cloak and lay down on a bench like a third-class railway passenger, as Clive Bell has remarked. Nor had he learned to pity himself for a spare diet. Privations of the flesh were no obstacle to his marvelous world of imagination. On the other hand, how many Americans have returned from Europe with terrible tales of the chill and draftiness of medieval castles and Renaissance palaces, with stories of deficient plumbing and uncomfortable chairs? Mark Twain was right to make his Connecticut Yankees score the lack of conveniences in Camelot. Yet it is just such people who will remain indifferent to the drabness of Gopher Prairie and Zenith and find their mental pabulum in drugstore fiction. Culture consists, in truth, of many little things, but they are not armrests and soft beds and extravagant bathing facilities. These, after all, cater to sensation, and because culture is of the imagination, the man of culture is, to a degree, living out of this world. The worship of comfort, then, is only another aspect of our decision to live wholly in this world. Yet here man encounters an anomaly. The very policy of living wholly in this world, of having no traffic with that other world which cannot be proved, turns one's attention wholly to the temporary and so actually impairs his effectiveness. We may feel satisfied to be damned for not producing great art or for not observing ceremony. But what if it is shown that addiction to comfort unfits us for survival? This is not a new story. The fate of the fat and flabby animal overtaken by the lean and hungry presents an allegory of familiar experience. Nor is it necessary to review the days of Roman degeneracy, though the case would be apposite. Let us rather see the problem in its essence, and ask whether the worship of comfort does not follow necessarily from loss of belief in ideas, and thereby induce social demoralization. The fact that it originates with the middle class, with those who would be moderate even in virtue, as Nietzsche remarked, is significant. After a people have repudiated ideals, they respond to the prick of appetite as an animal to a goad. But this, for reasons already outlined, does not take the place of systematic labor toward a supra-personal goal. In becoming pragmatic, they become ineffectual. De Tocqueville, alert to discern the effects of different social ideals, noted this well. In ages of faith, the final end of life is placed beyond life. The men of those ages, therefore, naturally and almost involuntarily accustom themselves to fix their gaze for many years on some immovable object toward which they are constantly tending, and they learn by insensible degrees to repress a multitude of petty passing desires in order to be the better able to content that great and lasting desire which possesses them. This explains why religious nations have often achieved such lasting results. For, whilst they were thinking only of the other world, they had found out the great secret of success in this. Great architectonic ideas are not nourished by the love of comfort, yet science is constantly telling the masses that the future will be better because the conditions of life are going to be softened. With this softening, the masculine virtue of heroism becomes, like the sentiments of which Burke spoke, absurd and antiquated. The way was prepared for the criteria of comfort and mediocrity when the Middle Ages abandoned the ethic of Plato for that of Aristotle. The latter's doctrine of rational prudence compelled him to declare in the Politics that the state is best ruled by the middle class. For him, the virtuous life was an avoidance of extremes, a middle course between contraries considered harmful. Such doctrine leaves out of account the possibility that there are some virtues which do not become defective through increase, that virtues like courage and generosity may be pursued to an end at which man effaces himself. Naturally, the idea of self-effacement will be absent from any philosophy which prescribes for a prosperous worldly career. Here, the conception of Plato, expressed certainly, too, by Christianity, of pursuing virtue until worldly consequence becomes a matter of indifference, stands in contrast. Aristotle remains a kind of natural historian of the virtues, observing and recording them as he observed techniques of the drama, but not thinking of a spiritual ideal. A life accommodated to this world and shunning the painful experience which extremes, including those of virtue, entail, was what he proposed for his son Nicomachus. One could anticipate that this theory would recommend itself to the Renaissance gentleman, and later to the bourgeoisie when their turn came. In Thomism, based as it is on Aristotle, even the Catholic Church turned away from the asceticism and the rigorous morality of the patristic fathers to accept a degree of pragmatic acquiescence in the world. This difference has prompted someone to say that whereas Plato built the cathedrals of England, Aristotle built the manor houses. The trend continues, and in a modern document like the Four Freedoms, one sees comfort and security embodied in canons. For the philosophic opposition, that is, of course, proper because fascism taught the strenuous life. But others with spiritual aims in mind have taught it too. Emerson made the point. Heroism, like Plotinus, is almost ashamed of its body. What shall it say then to the sugar plums and cat's cradles, to the toilet, compliments, quarrels, cards, and custard, which rack the wit of all human society? Since he who longs to achieve does not ask whether the seat is soft or the weather at a pleasant temperature, it is obvious that hardness is a condition of heroism. Exertion, self-denial, endurance, these make the hero. But to the spoiled child, they connote the evil of nature and the malice of man.